Welcome to our Modern Miracles Monday gathering. So happy to have you here. So happy to welcome you here if you're listening to the replay or recording. My name is Reverend Lisa Windsor. I'm the founder of Modern Miracles Academy, and I love coming together on Monday evenings. We kind of have a really cool setup at Modern Miracles for our community, actually. So every Monday, there's somewhere for you to gather on our platform. It's either a Modern Miracles gathering where I'm leading a call and sharing on a theme, or it's a round table discussion where the leadership team is opening up a space for a deeper conversation, for sharing, for expression about that. I really encourage you to check out the roundtable discussions. It's sort of like bringing it into experiential learning, kind of next level in terms of integration and deepening. And the Modern Miracles leadership team is so awesome. It's very rich. It's very, very rich. Sign up for the Modern Miracles gatherings. Those ones, they include a recording. The roundtables do not at this point. So just so you're aware. So you gotta show up live for the roundtables. But it's so good. I just encourage it. It's really, really good. Okay. Yes. So nice to be together. We are in the midst of a discussion on the theme of tolerance in a Course in Miracles. And I shared last time that this wasn't my favorite theme, mostly because when I have come to the word tolerance in the course, I have mostly wanted to skim right by it and kind of overlook it. But it's been really fun because we are examining the 10 characteristics of God's teachers. And guess what? Tolerance is on the list, which has me step back and pause and say, wait a minute. This is not something to be overlooked. Out of 10 characteristics, of all the characteristics Jesus could decide, he has chosen tolerance as one of them. So I'm so happy to be in the classroom with you, taking that pause and saying, okay, Jesus, Holy Spirit, our inner teachers in A Course in Miracles, we welcome your teaching on this theme. And that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm just going to be opening up my heart and mind and letting that teaching, that wisdom come through as it wants to, as it washes our minds and perhaps brings some miracles, some new ways of seeing. So our theme for tonight is about redefining the idea of tolerance. It's redefined in A Course in Miracles, so that we can move from judgment to joy, from judgment to joy. So the simple definition that is given is that tolerance is giving up judgment. Tolerance is the relinquishment and giving up of judgment. So when we are tolerant, we are not judging. So just take a moment with that, because tonight I am going to talk about non-judgment. It is a cornerstone and a key to the teachings of A Course in Miracles and essential to awakening. And I think what's interesting is when I came across tolerance, I thought, okay, I really haven't overlooked tolerance, but I haven't been calling it tolerance. The Course refers to it so much as not judging, so much as non-judgment, and also as the word tolerance as well. So I was it was sweet to come across and say, oh my gosh, this theme represents non-judgment in the mind. Wow. I can see actually by this new definition how incredibly essential and important it is to these teachings and to our liberation. Okay, so I have a little bit of a few quotes from the Course that kind of are going to help us. And I think this one's so incredibly interesting. So it says here that The world trains for reliance on one's judgment as the criterion for maturity and strength. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The world trains for reliance. We've got to rely on our judgment as the criterion for maturity and strength. Okay, so what that means is that as we've grown up, as we've been conditioned in the world with the ego thought system, we have come to absolutely rely on our ability to judge as a way to mature as a person, as a way to grow strong and clear in ourselves. So that is incredibly diametrically opposite to what the Holy Spirit trains the mind. And in A Course in Miracles, it says this world is upside down and backwards to reality. So it would make sense that the ego, being a thought system of fear and guilt and separate, would train us to rely on judgment as the criterion for maturity and strength. Okay, now, Course is also saying this. Our curriculum, as in A Course in Miracles, as in the Holy Spirit's curriculum, trains for the relinquishment of judgment as the necessary condition of salvation. The relinquishment of judgment is the necessary condition of salvation, which means that for us to be in the peace of God, we cannot enter into that state of mind from a place of judgment. We can't take our judgment with us and be in a state of peace. So we start to see the journey a little more clearly in terms of the healing. If we have been trained to rely on our judgment, and the necessary condition of heaven, of clarity, of alignment with spirit is that we are not in any judgment. That means that we must undo from the judgment we have developed. It means that we must let go of the judgment that we hold. Here's the thing. The ego has taught us to judge everything. It has misused the mind, the power of our mind, to spend our time judging everything. We are caught in so much intolerance. If we want to use the word tolerance as being a state of non-judgment, then we are intolerant, right? Because we are judging all kinds of things, including ourselves, including each other and ourselves. Okay, so next quote. The giving up of judgment, the obvious prerequisite to hearing God's voice. Okay, this isn't, Jesus is saying it's an obvious prerequisite to hearing God's voice. Maybe not so obvious to us until we really read that line. But the giving up of judgment, the obvious prerequisite for hearing God's voice, is usually a fairly slow process. Not because it is difficult, but because it is apt to be perceived as personally insulting. This is ego hit right in the face. We're hitting the wall. We're right there. The ego finds this idea personally insulting. Why? Because if we inflated our ego, if we built up our ego self-concept by learning to judge, and we became mature egos and we became strong egos by our judgment, it would be incredibly personally insulting for someone to come along and say, yeah, all that judgment, you don't need it. It doesn't matter. It's meaningless. In fact, you got to give it up. Take a moment with it. I know the ego, it has a lot of negotiation strategies that it works. It says, okay, well, we'll give up some of the judgment. We'll give up some judgment. Some judgments it can maybe see are bad and not very spiritual. But we're not talking about some judgment. We're talking about the prerequisite for entering into the condition of alignment with spirit is that we enter without any judgment. That means we enter with an open mind, an empty mind, a clear mind. Take a breath. Only for your ego's sake, take a breath, because this is big stuff. And even I laugh about this because remember I was saying that my ego's always wanted to just roll over the tolerance issue. Probably because, it has its own judgments about what tolerance is, and it's not tolerating me looking at it. But now we're looking at it. And it flushes up a lot because this is personally insulting, whether we want to admit it or not. I have been very personally insulted by this idea along the way, especially with things that I like to see myself as highly trained in, expertise. I know these things. I had this one friend. She is an expert in the area of fitness and nutrition, right? And having to have conversations with her about relinquishing all the judgment she has about food, all the judgment she has on exercise in order to start to open up to new, fresh ideas, new, fresh, real thoughts, things that can be inspiration, that can be helpful. It's like a closed mind when we're judging upon everything and we think we're right. So that's maybe the other thing why the ego is so personally insulted, is that it doesn't only judge, but it believes its judgments are right. And then we're up against, not only do we have to question everything that we're judging, but we have to open up to the idea that perhaps I've been wrong. Perhaps I've been wrong. I don't know. I wouldn't want the job that the Holy Spirit and Jesus have to find the inroads that are needed to start to convince us to question all of this, to question our judgments, to let go of our judgments. But when they start to describe the importance of non-judgment, the importance of having a clear, non-judgmental mind, we really want to start paying attention. There's a couple other just really pointed quotes here. It says, "Judgment will bind my eyes and make me blind." Judgment will blind my eyes and make me blind. Judgment destroys honesty and shatters trust. Judgment destroys honesty and shatters trust. Back to the initial quote, because the world's trained us on reliance on judgment, we value judgment. We don't see it as something that shatters trust, destroys honesty. We don't see something that blinds us. We see something that makes us see. So there's this invitation for us to turn within, even right in this moment. I just invite you to turn within right in this moment and just have a moment with Jesus and the Holy Spirit and saying, please help me with this. Please help me with this. I want to climb the rungs of the spiritual ladder home, which requires the characteristic of developing a state of non-judgment, a place where I will not judge. The Course is so clear. It says, not only should you not judge, but you cannot judge. That's the truth of it. Because, and I'm going to take it back to something practical, we in our egoic perspective have an incredibly limited perspective. We might be grabbing from our past learning, maybe using our eyes and ears and senses to survey the world. It's so incredibly limited. The Holy Spirit looks upon all things, past, present, future, and all as one connected, all of us connected as one, and knows the highest good. We cannot judge. And I think that's maybe more the starting point, is that the ego has told us we can. Over and over and over, it's taught us to judge and judge and judge, never ever wanting us to know that we cannot judge truly. We just can't. So every time we make a judgment, it's wrong. Every time we judge from our limited perspective, we are wrong. At the beginning of A Course in Miracles, it starts to let us down somewhat gently and somewhat directly. I have given everything all the meaning it has for things. I have given it that meaning. I don't know what anything is for. I do not know what things mean. Right? It's starting to tell us you cannot see, you cannot judge, you do not know. We're not left here. Right? We're not left here. We have work to do here. But guess what? The work is not to become better judges. It's not, right? Like the ego would be like, okay, get to work. We got to judge this clearly. We got to figure, it wants us to just get back and to get the mind figuring. No, we have to be willing to practice the depth of forgiveness that A Course in Miracles teaches. We have to be willing to be wrong so that we can be happy. We have to be willing to let go. We let go everything back to the Holy Spirit and Jesus. Why? So that they can judge for us, right? So that they can judge for us. They are in our minds, and we can truly judge when we're joined with them. That's the key. It's just that we cannot judge on our own. Okay, so, yeah, there's something here as well, and it says, judgment and love are opposites. From one comes all the sorrows of the world, but from the other comes the peace of God himself. Judgment and love are opposites. I think what Jesus is coming in for us today is he's saying, I want to tell you the truth about judgment. I want to tell you the truth. Judgment brings all of the sorrows of the world. He's telling us directly in these words, in these passages. He says, judgment will bind your eyes and make you blind. He says it will destroy honesty and shatter truth. And then he says this, you have no idea of the tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brothers totally without judgment. Just take a moment. I'm going to read it to you again and just even see if your mind releases a little bit. There's a resting place there. He's teaching us the truth about judgment and about non-judgment. You have no idea of the tremendous release and the deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brothers totally without judgment. Take a breath. To be without judgment means that we are in a state of peace. To be without judgment means that we are in a state of love. To be without judgment means that we can see. We can see. Okay? So, I'm also just going to point to something interesting about the Holy Spirit's judgment. The only judgment, Jesus says, involved is the Holy Spirit's one division into two categories. So this is the way the Holy Spirit judges. He divides things into two categories, one of love and the other a call for love. So the way that we perceive and judge through the lens of the Holy Spirit is we see love, which needs the response of love, or we see a call for love, which needs the response of love. There's only one response. There's only one channel. There's only one communication that comes through the Holy Spirit, and that is love. The Holy Spirit represents the voice for God. It is only love. So the only true judgment that we will ultimately hold when we are connected to the Holy Spirit is one of love or a call for love. That is very different than the complexity of judgment that the ego would have us learn. Can you see how tired the mind must be in terms of the complexity of judgment we have attempted to do in terms of looking out into the world and judging everything, categorizing everything, dividing everything, separating everything, storing it all? Jesus says no more, because when you join with the Holy Spirit, there's just one division, love and a call for love, and there's only one answer, love, the Holy Spirit's love, God's love. Do you have a sense of the simplicity? When you hold up judgment and non-judgment, one is full of complexity and chaos and, well, ego, and the other is pure and perfect love. It's simplicity. It's freedom. It's our mind. These are two states of mind that we hold. Intolerance, full of judgment. Tolerance, totally without judgment. Totally without judgment. Peace. If we think about tolerance being non-judgment, what happens is that everything becomes acceptable. Everything is allowed. Everything can be welcomed. And remember, as we welcome it, we accept it, and we allow, the Holy Spirit is sorting it out, love or a call for love. We're so cared for in this process. When we are in a state of tolerance, we are without judgment, all things are acceptable. And I think there's actually a line here that says, yeah, it says, without judgment are all things equally acceptable. How? How are all things equally acceptable? Because we've literally projected no judgment onto it at all. Of course it's acceptable. We haven't divided it, separated it, put it in a category, left it out, brought it in. None of that's happening. So all of a sudden, we're learning not to misuse our mind. How much space, time, presence will we have if we are not judging? What are we going to do with all of the time that we have? This is so important because we give time to Holy Spirit and Jesus. They're just using time to wake us up. But they talk about delay. We have delayed and suffered for it. All the sorrows of the world come from judgment, from spending our time building up a self-concept that's really judgmental. Now listen, we have to be honest here. This one is not easy to look at. And I know this because I have looked at it again and again in my mind. I will tell you, you often need support and you need safe spaces to start to relinquish the judgment you hold. Because another reason why we are intolerant and full of judgment is that the ego tells us to judge everything, and it also tells us we should be non-judgmental. So what happens is that we hide the judgment. We often hide the judgment. Unless we find people that support our judgments, right? Or we'll go into our corners and find someone that agrees with our judgments and we'll strengthen them there. But a lot of it's hidden. And there's so much negative judgment in the mind that we never want to admit. And we know in this space, this is why we join together and we love each other through it all. And we go through the mess and we bring the darkness to the light. And we say, I am full of judgment. I am judging my brothers. I am judging myself. I am judging the situation. I am intolerant to so many things. And I am finding compassion and love for myself because I was taught to do that. That was the drill that we were all taught. And now I need help in unwinding from it because it hurts to hold my mind in chains. Judgment holds our minds in chains. It makes us the prison guard and it imprisons us. We are the prison guard and we are imprisoned by judgment. Now, I want you to be really gentle with yourself because when Jesus is talking about judgment or tolerance in A Course in Miracles, and tolerance being the giving up of judgment, for someone to be in that state, he's talking about the advanced teachers of God. He's talking about those that have committed their goal to peace of mind and been applying the teachings and practicing forgiveness and have unwound the mind from all of the judgment. That's a journey. So in the beginning stages, when I started to look at my mind, it was so full of judgment. It was hard to deal with how much judgment was in my mind. And I didn't want to admit that out loud. It was difficult to look at. I could only look at it what I could look at. It took time. It's been kind of coming up over time. But there's less judgment in the mind as we go along. And that helps us raise up the rungs of the ladder until the mind is free. So a mind that is wholly tolerant is free. It's fully in alignment with God and love and our real thoughts. And it's the journey we're all taking. So we need to cultivate a lot of compassion and kindness towards ourselves while we walk this path of forgiveness. That's what we're given. We're given the path of forgiveness. So Jesus and Holy Spirit, they're so sweet. They're so loving. They're in our minds and they're saying, bring us your judgment. Bring us all the judgment. Bring us all of it. Good, bad, or ugly, bring us the judgment and let us sort it out. We'll divide it into two categories, love or a call for love. Whatever is not real, whatever is not true will be dissolved in the light of truth. And whatever is real and true will be held for you always because love is eternal. This is a safe path to take. This is a safe curriculum to follow. But again and again, we're given support, the supports that we need along the way. I think that's really important. I'm going to tell you why, and it's a little complex, but just rest in. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, just let it go. But one of the things that we do with judgment is we project it, a lot of it outside of the mind. So we look out in what seems like the external world, and we've laid judgment on our brothers, and we've laid judgment on circumstances, and we've laid judgment on events and things, and we've laid judgment on the past, and there's judgment on the future, and there's just judgment outside the external world. So one of the processes that happens when we project our judgments outside is that we actually have to pull the projections back into our own mind and recognize that the judgment really isn't out there. The blame isn't really out there. The judgment that I'm holding is actually in my own mind. And what happens, and this is a real trick of the ego, is often when we recognize, oh my gosh, I'm judging these things. I'm judging these things, is that when we pull the judgment back and see that it's us that's actually the judge, we attack ourselves. We actually then just turn the judgment and we hurt and condemn ourselves because we're bad, we've judged, we're not spiritual, we've condemned. And the trick here is when you pull back judgment off of the world and off of your brothers, you want to see it in your mind. You absolutely do. But just for a moment, just long enough to claim it as your own thinking, your thoughts, so that you have the choice to release them and let them go. So we have to be careful when we're dealing with judgment, so that external judgment or our projected judgment doesn't just turn into self-judgment and get caught there. All of it has to go to the Holy Spirit and Jesus. So in a way, we have direct self-judgment that can be lifted directly. We see that's for judging ourselves, that's in our mind. And then we have a two-step projected judgment where we pull the judgment off of whatever we're judging, see it in our minds, and then lift it swiftly to the Holy Spirit and Jesus for clearing. You see, the ego only survives if we hold judgment in the mind. We could call them grievances. Our grievances are the judgments that we hold. The ego lives on grievances. It lives on judgment. It lives on ensuring that we give it the power of our mind so that we continue to judge, so that it continues to seem to exist. So as we start to pull back the judgment, see it in our mind, and start to practice forgiveness, it can get pretty intense at times. And there can be an incredible amount of resistance, because I'm going to go back to this. Jesus is telling us this for a reason. The giving up of judgment, the obvious prerequisite to hearing God's voice, which we all want to hear. We all want to hear God's voice. We all want to hear the voice for love within us, is usually a fairly slow process. Okay, he's saying the giving up of judgment is usually a fairly slow process, not because it is difficult, but because it is apt to be perceived as personally insulting. Personally insulting. When we are personally insulted, do you know what we do? We raise up our defenses. We raise up our walls. We strengthen in our opinions. We strengthen in our judgments. We run out and we reinforce those judgments in the world. We find those that will agree with us. Not a problem, except that we suffer. And then Jesus and Holy Spirit wait with infinite patience until we turn once again toward them. And in our willingness, again, attempt to let go of the judgments we're holding. And there's a lot of vacillation, defensiveness, defenselessness. Defensiveness, holding the judgments, reinforcing the judgments. I will not be insulted. I am right. Defenselessness. I'm surrendering. I'm open. I'm releasing. I'm willing. Perhaps I've been wrong. Will you show me another way to see? Love shows up. Love or a call for love. Jesus often says to us, he doesn't have much to say when we're in a state of love. We're with him. But when we're calling for love and we're stressed and we're holding, he says, you're calling for love. Be kind to yourself. Bring it to me. Bring the problem. Bring the judgment to me. And that's what it is to develop the characteristic of tolerance. You see how active this process is? Because it's a willingness to engage fully in Jesus's curriculum. Because only he knows how to direct and guide us out of these chains and these prisons we've built for the mind. He knows the parts and places where there's an opening to encourage us to let go of our judgment. We have learned to protect ourselves with defenses. But what self have we been protecting? We've been protecting the ego. We've been protecting the false self. And we are learning with love and support and compassion and willingness and kindness to release the defenses, to let go, and to let love lead us. Let the Holy Spirit and Jesus guide us to a state of non-judgment. In a way, we've got to check our judgments at the door before we enter peace. And we do that together. What is our opening prayer but an entryway, a doorway into non-judgment? Jesus says, lay down your day. Let those future worries go for a moment. Release the past. You don't need to bring it in. You can't bring it in the space, so just let it go. Enter in here with me and rest a while. We go, oh, wow. What's that like? What's that like? Freedom, peace, liberation, restfulness, gentleness. We're so worthy of God's gifts to us, and those are his gifts to us. Perfect peace, freedom, joy. How do we get there? We willingly learn to be tolerant, to accept all things without judgment, to forgive all things. All things are here serving the purpose of forgiveness. They're all welcome to the light. Good, bad, or ugly, however we may have judged them in the past, we can just let them all go to the same place where they can be sorted out on our behalf. Give them to the one that can judge for truth. Release, release, release. Just all of it. You know, there's a part in the Course, and Jesus talks about you cannot judge your, I always forget this one.
Your advances from your retreats.
Thank you. I just have you there just to remind me of that. You cannot judge your advances from your retreats. He says you're apt to actually get them mixed up, where we think we've advanced and we've got there, we sorted it out, and we judge our retreats. Oh, I've failed, I've done this. He said you can't even judge that. So what does that mean practically? He means bring every advance that you believe that you've judged as an advance to me and let it be sorted out in the light. Bring every retreat that you've judged as a retreat, as a failure, as an obstacle, as a stuck point to me, and I will sort it out in the light. You cannot judge. That is the truth. But there is one within our mind that judges on our behalf, and it's our part to bring to him everything that we would hold apart from him. Remember, the ego insists that we hold these judgments apart from the light and hold them. You know, that's how the ego persists and seems to exist. And the Holy Spirit calls to us unceasingly, bring them to me. Bring them to me, good, bad, or ugly, however you may have seen them. Bring them to me and let them be sorted out in the light. Love or a call for love, that's all that's there. The truth is the truth, and the rest will be dissolved. We get the gift of the miracle. That's what he returns to us. So this is about the healing of our mind. This is mind training. This is the mind training that the Course sets forth. And I so appreciate you opening up your hearts and minds to this new definition. It's really important. We are moving from judgment to joy. And the essence of the talk today was from this quote: wisdom is not judgment. It is the relinquishment of judgment. Wisdom is not judgment. It is the relinquishment of judgment. If we want God's wisdom, we relinquish our judgment. That is tolerance. To be non-judgmental. To give up judgment is to be tolerant.